the Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 14 DraftKings picks and preview each position. If you want to play in the best tournament on DraftKings, it's super easy. Hit the description, click the link to the Pat Mayo Experience Open, and play in it. Free max entry, $15 to play, no rake. Best contest on DraftKings. You double your money, even if you just cash. That's the best part about having a no-rake competition. I'll see you at the bottom, everyone who loses, and some of you might even actually win. Well, I'm guessing that people watching this are playing, and I don't know, maybe you're sharing the links around. Please don't do that. I need the clicks on the show. That's the whole reason that it exists. Well, that, and it's a great contest. So you should definitely play in that. Also, if you want to get the optimizer, the projections, head on over to ftndaily.com. Code MAYO gets you a discount off on the already discounted item. You can find that link in the description as well. There's Cuss Corners just popping up on Mayo Media Network. So smash the like button to the episode. Give me your favorite defense sleeper in the comment section. Go become a subscriber to Mayo Media Network. We're on a push for 20K subs in 3 months. It'd be super impressive. I mean, I don't want to glad hand Barry Horowitz myself over here, but it's been the contribution of all of you tuning in. I'd like to get to that 20,000 number by the start of 2020. That would be awesome. Highly recommend it if you're looking for MMA picks. The Dog and Pass podcast is out on Mayo Media Network right now as well. So check all of it out. Joining me to break down the slate, 13-game main slate this week, Ben Rasa from Awesemo.com. Sup?
What's up, man? Yeah, 13 of these bad boys. I was saying to you before the show, a couple extra games, it makes all the difference. Not in a good way. These are monster slates to break down.
Maybe we'll try to compress it a little bit, because this is the thing that I've been having issues with throughout the course of, I think everyone struggles with this problem. Is like, where do I narrow everything down? Like, do I just say, hey, I only want to play guys from these 4 games? And is that a better way to approach this slate, or are you always just looking for weird one-offs? Because I always talk myself into some sort of stack that sucks, and then I lose all my money.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I know how that feels. Like, you've got so many games, and depending on what tournaments, I know that's kind of a cop-out, but it's true. Like, if you're playing in a monster tournament, you're going to have to structure differently than if you're playing in the small field or a single entry. So we've got a lot of options. That's the one good thing. We got guys at every price point, up and down each range at each position to discuss.
Well, let's go and kick that off with running backs then. Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry are the 3 most expensive. Christian McCaffrey was limited in practice on Wednesday with a quad injury. Maybe that pushes some ownership off of him, but just looking at it here, I'm guessing this is the first week where Dalvin Cook's not going to be the mega chalk just because he's going up against Tampa. And I kind of agree with that, being the most expensive guy. If McCaffrey's playing, I'm playing McCaffrey. That's how I usually win money on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. When he first came back, all it took was some coach speak to throw everyone off, including me, that there was going to be a timeshare. He may split some carries, and he was back to his usual workload. So you mentioned it. Dalvin Cook going against Tampa's front 7. Coming off a game, I mean, he salvaged in overtime, but it wasn't the best vintage Dalvin Cook. But this matchup is going to deter a lot of people, including me.
Maybe it's a week to jump on, because sometimes matchups don't matter, do they?
That's very true. I will say, though, one of the matchups that I do take notice of is Tampa's front. They are very stout. Now, he's going to get the volume. We know that.
Yeah, no Madison.
No Madison. Can catch the ball. They need him. I don't think they're a serious playoff threat, but at the same time, they are, just by a product of the extra wild card. So low ownership Dalvin Cook is always enticing, but you've got McCaffrey. And then as we're going to work down in this range, you're saving a couple $1,000s to a lot of guys in really good situations.
So the tier below that, the between 6 and 8K running backs, Aaron Jones is the next most expensive, who salvaged his day last week, that long run at the end of the game, 7,600. James Robinson, 75. Starting to get a bit expensive for old James Robinson. Kamara is 71. Eckler is 7,000. That's down in price against Atlanta, who sucks against pass-catching running backs. Gibson's probably going to be out for this game. Zeke got banged up in the Tuesday night game with a calf injury. We'll see with him. It's a nice spot at 6,600 against Cincinnati. David Montgomery's finally up in price. He's 65. You got DeAndre Swift. He's also 65. He returned to practice. Mike Davis is irrelevant if Christian McCaffrey is playing. No Alexander Mattison. Josh Jacobs probably not going to play against Indy. We'll wait and see with him. Then you got Mostert, Sanders, Ronald Jones, Jamal Williams. It's like DraftKings couldn't figure out what to do with a lot of these running backs pricing, so they stuck them all in this range.
Oh, it's a massive range that you just rattled off a bunch of guys. And I think the first question is what's going on with the Saints QB? I know that's a different question, but obviously if it's Drew Brees, Kamara at 7,100, he's going to be massively popular, but he's also in a fantastic spot. The targets will immediately go back and the price is depressed because of Taysom Hill. So he's at the top of the board for me. I think that's pretty obvious though.
Yeah, I don't think that Drew Brees is going to be back this week. I'd expect it to be I believe the report I saw is like they're hoping to have him back for week 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I know he's eligible, so obviously if he's ruled out, that would change that. Then you've got, I mean, I think in general, the Chargers, of course, it's going to be a buyback spot after what happened last week. Eckler and the entire team was non-existent, but now they get Atlanta, which is a fantastic matchup at home. Again, full point PPR, these add up quickly for Eckler there. And then Carson, I didn't know what to make of, and I'll ask you, Pat. Carlos Hyde just is annoying. He was getting the carries. Then last week he was non-existent. I mean, they're almost 2 touchdown favorite. If Carson's going to get the work at sub 7K, I could get there for sure.
Well, I played a running back against the Jets last week, Ben, who was almost a double-digit favorite, and he wasn't very good.
Booker season. Yeah, if Seattle doesn't win this one coming off that bad loss, they need this game, obviously. So my plan right now is to probably try to steal some salary at running back. I like these guys in the low 7s, high 6s. It's not to say more than the top end guys, but the opportunity cost to me is really great when we get to these other positions.
I think I'm just going to go down with the McCaffrey ship here because I do think that people will be deterred by that price point, by some of the injury news. Just like the best week I've had all year was the 1 week where Christian McCaffrey played against Kansas City because I just used him in every lineup. And all of a sudden now I came 5th in my contest, I came 3rd in another GPP, like basically paid for my entire season because no one wanted to use him. I'll donate back to the Christian McCaffrey fund just a little bit to everyone back out there if he's going to be back. And again, everyone's going to want to play Derrick Henry, won't they, against Jacksonville?
Of course, yeah. I mean, everyone... Derrick Henry, obviously.
Not that that's a bad play.
No, it's certainly not. I mean, we just saw it against Indy, and last year against Jacksonville, he absolutely crushed them. It can happen. It's just, again, the Titans are a weird team. Obviously, I don't expect them to fall behind by like 40 points like they did last week, but Derrick Henry is just so dependent on touchdowns. I'm sure he's going to find the end zone, but he probably needs to do it multiple times here. Especially if you're looking at McCaffrey getting back in the mix and these guys who are cheaper that just don't need as many raw points to pay off their value.
So the 3 that really jumped out to me from a value perspective, you were talking about the guys in the low 7s, and I agree with you. If Breeze plays, play Kamara. That's like a lock of the century. Chris Carson, I don't know what's going on with his touches. Not to say that he can't have a good game, but I'm looking at, I can't believe I'm going to say this, David Montgomery at $6,500.
Man.
He probably should be chalky, and he likely is going to be chalky, but him, Zeke, and Swift, 66, 65, 65. I think those are the guys.
I mean, David Montgomery, he space jammed Tariq Cohen. I don't understand where this, when he went down, I was not thinking that his target share was going to increase like this. If he's going to get that type out of the backfield, it really helps him. Now, Chicago's a disaster. I bet Chicago last week. You know how that went.
I did too.
Yeah, it's just awful. Just awful. But 6,500 against Houston, I like that spot. Then you've got Zeke. Assuming he's good to go. I know Zach Martin not being there is a problem, but again, these matchups are just so juicy. Cincinnati's awful against the run. 4.7 yards per carry. That's 29th in the league. I'll go to Zeke at these appealing price tags and try to steal salary.
Yeah, and Swift returned to practice on a limited basis on Wednesday. If he gets in 2 fulls, I got to think with the new head coach, Celia and I talked about this on the ranking show, which everyone should go check out. Same as the spread show, which is already out. That if he gets in 2 full practices, they have a new head coach who presumably wants to get a head coaching job in the NFL at some point, that play your best running back a lot. Just do that. Is that too hard?
I mean, I thought that Carry-On would get work with Swift out, and that didn't happen. So I don't know what to make of it. I would hope that Swift would take over again. Now, what was it? Was it a concussion or is he sick? I'm just confused. Why is he out?
So he was out originally on Thanksgiving because of a concussion, but then he passed concussion protocol last week, but he was sick with something, but it wasn't the vid. So
Okay.
He's good to play this week, and apparently he's back at practice. He looks fine.
So yeah, I mean, that's all good news in the sense that there should be no pitch count of any, like he's either in or he's out. And if he's in, should be all systems go, obviously, against it's not the best matchup with the Packers, but that's a good price point.
Yeah, I'm going to take like these split backfields. Although, is there any way we can be duped into Miles Sanders once again? Because with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, there should be like ample running lanes if they give him the ball.
I mean, so if they give him the ball, that's the problem. I don't understand. I know that they've been trailing and they've obviously haven't been good, but I just can't believe the volume for him. He had 1 target against Green Bay, 10 carries against Seattle, 6 carries, 3 targets. That's just not enough for a guy this explosive. So I've been playing him. You know, you don't need much to get over the field because he's so explosive, but I'm really worried, and I don't think Hurts being in there is really going to help the cause much.
So that there's like a little mini range of all of these kind of guys, like Mostert, Sanders, Ronald Jones, Jamal Williams, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, guys who are not the full-time running backs in their backfields. I'm just going to cross them off. Then we got Jonathan Taylor, who's kind of in the same situation too, and everyone's going to be sucked back in because of last week up against the Raiders, a terrible run defense. I think we're going to take a pass on that as well. To drop down to this next little mini tier of Gallman, Gaskin, Drake, those 3. I mean, you could probably lump Taylor into them too, but I think that one of those 3 guys is the play. Can't figure out which one. I'm leaning Gaskin.
Yeah, I'm leaning Gaskin too. You know, he's getting the opportunities, and he had chances to score against Cincinnati last week. Several of them just couldn't do it.
I mean, Miami only has 2 plays from the 1-yard line. Dive from jumbo right up the middle into like 80 guys, or fade to corner. That's it. Those are their only 2 plays.
Sad. I mean, I can't tell you, this is a whole different show. My variance this year on 1 yard, like I had Zeke last night, just three just stuffed. I cannot get a 1-yard touchdown, and Gaskin did not run well either. But if he's going to see 20 plus carries, and obviously in a game like this, they're probably going to be trailing. So he may sacrifice a few carries for a few targets. I will gladly live with that. I'm a Wayne Gallman fan. I just didn't know Alfred Morris from the dead could impact that. I'm a little worried about what we see there.
Do you worry that if, let's say, DeAndre Washington comes back, or Salvon Ahmed is active, or Malcolm Perry, that it does take away from some of Gaskin's share? Because he had all of it to himself last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice when he has a monopoly on it. I worry a little bit, but I still think that he's going to have opportunities in this game. Price is reasonable. And these other guys, like I said, you can make a case for all 3 of them in a way, because Kyler, I don't know why he's not rushing, and that directly impacts Drake. So I get it. But to me, Gaskin has more paths to success than the other guys.
So the only other one if we drop to the bottom of the 5s, could you go back to Devontae Booker if Josh Jacobs is out?
Oh, God.
Because no one will. No one will go to him or Naheem Hines this week. No one will.
That's definitely true. I wasn't on Booker last week, so for me to jump on would just be a little too dangerous. Hines, listen, his abilities is electric. Just, you know, the volume is an issue. I think obviously if Gibson sits, McKissick, you know, especially if they're trailing, he just gets so many targets in that offense. At 4,900, it'll be a pretty obvious punt.
I think so, but I love J.D. McKissick, and the last time I said he had no upside, he actually finally scored a touchdown. I think that's 4 in his 4-year career. That's always the issue with him if you're trying to win tournaments, that he's not going to hit 30 points. And maybe you don't need 30 points at this price point. But Gio Bernard is $100 more against Dallas. Like, I know he hasn't been good, but Joe Mixon's going to sit again. Like, he's the only guy getting carries back there. And you got Ryan Finley likely playing quarterback, who's a bit more mobile. Maybe that opens it up a little bit for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really understand, not that it really matters, when Burrow went down, why they didn't go to Finley immediately. But you've got options. I think here, really, the reason you're going there, it's not to say McKissick or even Gio couldn't have a good game. It's that you're saving salary to do something in a permutation that you just can't do otherwise. If you want to pay, say, for McCaffrey and Devontae Adams or something, you know, different, and that type of salary savings can allow you to do that.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon's there against a soft Carolina defense. That's kind of intriguing. If it wasn't, I mean, if he didn't have the name Melvin Gordon III sitting there, I'd be like, hey, it's a good matchup for a guy who gets like 60% of the carries. And with Phillip Lindsay still banged up too. But I'd kind of go lower. What do you make of Ty Johnson if Frank Gore sits?
I mean, he looked, I don't know if it's because it was not Frank Gore, but obviously he looked explosive. Every time I looked up, the guy was running wild, eclipsed 100. I just don't know exactly, of course, what to make of it. First step is what you mentioned. What's the status of Frank Gore? But if he has the backfield to himself, I guess the question is, do you think if they get absolutely smoked that he can make up for it with targets?
I would think so. Like, why wouldn't?
So would I.
If he's the guy, like, they're not throwing to Jamal Adams. Like, that's not happening. Jamal Adams, yeah.
No,
that's his name, right? Josh Adams. I'm thinking.
Yeah, Jamal Adams was a Jet. He's
Yes.
on the Seahawks now.
And they're playing him this week. So I'm just getting very confused. Jay Adams, getting it confused in my head here. But if Ty Johnson's going to play like 70% of the snaps, he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any. P. Ryan obviously isn't walking through that door. So I think that's the key. If you think that he can corner the market on what will probably be a lot of dump offs late in the game, 4,700, I have no problem with that either.
Yeah, just below that, like Fournette and Peyton Barber are there. Peyton Barber is probably going to be the one seeing the carries from the 2-yard line if Washington gets down there, not J.D. McKissic. So if you think he can score 3 touchdowns, 4,400 is not a terrible price, but that's going to come along with, I don't know, 9 yards rushing as well, like in a very vintage Jerome Bettis type game. And then Fournette, like you just have to, if you ever play Fournette, you just almost have to believe, oh, this is just the week where they decide to bench Ronald Jones for no reason, which they do from time to time.
You need the fumble. But then Fournette ends up dropping all the balls and then he gets benched. So I don't think I'll go this slow. I get it. There are some guys, but you're really drawing thin if you dig this deep.
I think Ty Johnson with Gore out is the lowest I would go here. And like I have no interest in Gurley. Do you?
I agree on both rounds.
No interest in Gurley?
Not really, no.
Yeah. And I think I like Gio over McKissic. Let's say Swift sits again. Would you play AP against Green Bay?
I wouldn't, but I have a problem because I am convinced, no one will convince me otherwise, that it shouldn't be carry on, and that's just not the case. I hate targeting teams that, they're not going to give him obviously volume in the passing game, and I do think they will lose the game. So it's just a weird game script for him to get there.
Switching to receivers, is there any of these top-end receivers you would consider playing as a one-off and not as a part of a stack?
Let's see. Probably Keenan Allen, but all of them. This is why running back is so difficult, because you talk about you want to get those guys up top. You couldn't ask for better situations for most of these guys. I mean, Metcalf gets the Jets, Keenan Allen gets Atlanta. Tyreek is Tyreek, and then Devontae Adams is also unstoppable. So it's just going to be a matter of how many can you fit in. And like you just mentioned, are you playing Rodgers? Are you playing Wilson? Or are you using them in other stacks?
I think you just go Matt Ryan, Julio, Calvin Ridley, and then figure out the rest from there.
Interesting. And then Keenan Allen on the run back?
Or Eckler on the run back. Keenan Allen's down to a 20% market share of targets in the 2 weeks that Eckler's been back. Not to say that that's like a trend by any means, but it's far fewer than his 36%, which he had seen before Eckler came back.
Yeah, isn't that the case? I mean, it's just so hard because we saw this last week. You mentioned how Aaron Jones got there. He got there on an 80-yard touchdown run. Green Bay had multiple plays from the 1-yard line, and they just continuously throw it to Devontae Adams. It's basically their running play on the goal line. And if they're going to do that every week, his floor is so high. Even at 9,300, it's hard not to look there as a starting point.
The only other, I was trying to think through the stacks this week. So I like that one a lot. I don't know about Kansas City and Miami. Like, you can always play the Kansas City stack. It's probably smart to do that. But if there's a team that can shut them down a little bit, it feels like Miami's defense is kind of geared towards it, like Minnesota against Tampa Bay, just in the face of all the other options. Well, Thielen, Jefferson, and Cousins could come through for you. That I'm looking at all of these other high-end options, and they're all really good. So we have to start making cases against guys. Like, bad matchup there. Kyler's kind of banged up. No DeAndre Hopkins. Michael Thomas. I mean, 7,100 is actually not a terrible price, considering he gets 95% of the target share in New Orleans. They just happen to throw 15 times a game now. It really does bring me to the Falcons guys, because the Chargers don't stop anyone, or both the Seahawks, and just hopefully this is finally the game where DK and Lockett just both go off. It's against the Jets, who suck.
I mean, we saw this, I don't know what week it was, several weeks ago when Kansas City played the Jets, and everyone was trying to find run backs and worry about this. And it just turned out all you needed to do was just stack the obvious guys on Kansas City. Don't even worry about the run back. We could see that. Obviously, you've got a $1,200 difference between Lockett and Metcalf, but you could just try to capture it all and hope, Russ throws for 5 touchdowns amongst the two of them.
That would have to be the move if you play. If you had to play one of them, would it just be Metcalf because the upside is higher?
I think so. Now, I never get those guys right, but I do think that his upside is normally it's Tyreek, and it's not to say that he can't have another monster game. But if there was one guy I was worried about absolutely just ending the slate this week, it would be DK Metcalf.
It would be him, or actually Julio would be the other guy for me at $6,600. Like, this is such a juicy matchup for him.
He can't stay on the field.
But when he does, he's good.
Do you have any interest in Allen Robinson? Or is it Trubisky just that bad?
It could be just that bad. Like, what the problem with Allen Robinson is, like, what's the upside with him?
Well, the problem is that, if he has to find the end zone somehow.
But even, maybe that's the way that you play it. If you can somehow stomach fading all of these top guys and just build your core with Allen Robinson, Julio Jones, and I don't know. I don't want to use
Houston.
Maybe McLaurin.
Houston's awful. Godwin.
Maybe Robbie Anderson at 62, just because DJ Moore is dealing with this ankle. Curtis Samuel was in like COVID contact tracing. Maybe it just opens up more targets for him.
So that's the other part about what you're talking about with McCaffrey. Like if all those guys are gone, Christian McCaffrey might have to touch the ball 35 times. Like they might not have a choice.
The only other ones I can above 6,000, like I don't want to pick and choose between the Tampa guys because I just don't know. Like I don't love playing Cooper on the road, so I don't want to touch the Dallas guys. Debo's dealing with a foot injury, but Debo's actually in quite a nice spot here. Like the front seven for the footballs, pretty good. Secondary, not so good.
The good thing about Debo, is you just mentioned it's a fine matchup. He's a damn good player, and everybody is going to go to Ayuk. So unless you're talking about stacks of Mullins, which I don't think a lot of people are going to do anyway, people aren't going to play Debo Samuel just as a product of that. So you'd get direct leverage off one of the chalky guys at Ayuk. Now, he's $1,000 cheaper, and he's in a great situation of his own. So it's not just an automatic pivot.
Any of the 5K guys interest you? Like Marvin Jones will likely be covered by Jair Alexander if Kenny Golladay misses again. That's not great. Corey Davis, $5,700.
No, Corey Davis. The Titans, I mean, that team, when Tannehill gets the opportunities when they're down by like 40, they really rack up the points. But I do think it's probably more of a Derrick Henry game. I think Ayuk is going to be really popular, and it's probably warranted.
Yeah, that's good enough for me just to not play him, to tell you the truth.
No, I mean, if you can survive ones like that, you can certainly pick up and even leverage against it if you find someone. I looked at Devontae Parker, but I'm not really there, to be honest. I don't know what we see with the volume with Tua. I do think this will be an opportunity for him, but still not loving it. I'd rather have Fitzy back there.
You could have Chark at 53. That's a pretty soft matchup, and he did have 7 targets last week.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville always provides some hidden value. It's just...
Who?
God. Chark. He's killed me a lot this year. That's a game. That is an interesting game. Obviously, we've seen the Titans in terms of when you mentioned at the top of the show, like stacking up games. They have been part of a lot of games that have gotten out of control this year. And either if you're going to the Tannehill stack with A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, Shark could fit into that game stack pretty nicely, actually.
The only other like 5K guys is at the very bottom, like Hilton, Lazard, Cutie, Pittman. Like I think you can make a compelling case for all those guys, but I don't think that they're substantially better than some of the cheaper guys.
No, I mean, I think that's where you get more into secondary options. Like if I play Lazard, Rodgers is going to be on that team. I don't think that's a one-off play for me. Pittman maybe could stand on his own. He's a good player, and still, though, Indy's very tough to gauge. They have so many different guys.
Are there any cheapies that you would consider? Because it doesn't look like Denzel Mims left Jets practice to deal with personal issues. He had to fly home. I'm not sure what's going on with him. But because of COVID protocols, I don't think that he's going to end up playing on Sunday, which would really open up Perriman, who's $3,900 against Seattle.
Yeah, as bad as the Jets are, and believe me, they are bad. They provided wide receiver value pretty much all year, whether it was Berrios or Jeff Smith or Perryman. So you've got whoever's left standing there. I guess Tim Patrick, obviously Gallup. I really wish he didn't have that big game yesterday because I kind of wanted to target him regardless. And now at 3,800, I have a feeling the ownership will creep up.
Can I chase Chad Hansen at 39?
Did you know that was a person before?
No.
Okay. I had so many guys on Houston, and Chad Hansen was catching balls.
Like, can I play him here?
I guess, but I wish he was the flat min. I would just rather play Perryman.
I would rather play Perriman as well. Colin Johnson, I find, is somewhat intriguing. Mike Glennon loves him.
He's a big dude. Yeah, I mean, again, these are guys that I'm going to try to fit into specific team builds. If I play someone like Colin Johnson, you're probably going to see A.J. Brown, Tannehill, maybe even another Titan on that team.
Yeah, the only other one I can really think of, he scored a touchdown last week, is Quintez Cephas, who was Paul's shout-out as like the min play guy last week, and he ended up in the end zone, so it would have worked out. But if Golladay sits Alexander on Marvin Jones, presumably someone needs to catch the ball, you'd think?
Yeah, I mean, they've stated, you know, the new coach, he wants to get some looks for some of these guys, and he did find the end zone. You're drawing, obviously, again, with Golladay sitting, you're going to have a miraculous play or two, but you don't need that much at 32. That's like, I will say I looked pretty closely at Cam Sims.
Because he made that one-handed catch?
Yeah, that's really all it takes for me, but 9 targets against Pittsburgh. I don't know if you need to go this low unless there's a really build that you're in love with that really taps into your salary.
Well, last week for the Lions, Marvin Jones played 94% of the snaps, Mohamed Sanu 59, Danny Amendola 49, Cephas 46, my guy Spiro Agnew, who they finally started to use after I bet him to score a touchdown on Thanksgiving when they didn't use him, 24%. So maybe Sanu. I mean, Sanu is definitely not the play. What am I talking about?
Yeah, I'm not playing Sanu. He ruined. I mean, he was one of the many reasons why Thanksgiving was just god awful. But God, D.D. Westbrook, what a sad state of affairs.
He's out, isn't he? Isn't he out for the year?
Oh yeah, no, don't play him. I'm just looking at his year. A nice 1 catch for 4 yards.
Impressive stuff.
Yeah.
Then he got hurt on special teams.
That's why they need to keep their top end guys away from special teams. There's just not much down here, to be honest.
Okay, tight ends. Feels like there's 2 moves you can make. Pay for Kelsey, who is in a perfect position to attack this Miami defense in the middle of the field, or just pay for Logan Thomas at 33.
So you definitely, this is why I was saying at the beginning, this is the one benefit of 13 games. You can do anything at tight end. You can pay all the way up for Kelsey. You could obviously take what's an obvious Logan Thomas. I think you could go lower than Logan Thomas with some absolute creative players. You also have guys like Gesicki, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Tanyan. These could be parts of stacks, one-offs potentially in the mid-4s. And those guys to me are all playable.
What about Dalton Schultz as the pivot off of Logan Thomas?
So I do think that there's opportunities to pivot off of Logan Thomas. Dalton Schultz would be one of them. This guy, he gets looks from Dalton. It's a good matchup. Now, what is wrong with this guy? He didn't practice. God damn it. I do think that Tyler Eifert might be a Megamind genius play if he plays at 3,100. He's another Jaguar. Targets up for grabs there. I don't think it's crazy to go to him. Again, large field tournament if you're looking to get away from Logan Thomas chalk.
You know who played Tyler Eifert last week? Pat Mayo.
Not bad.
No, it was bad.
Why? What happened?
Oh, because I played him as a part of a Mike Glennon stack, which was winning every contest after 10 minutes.
Yeah, and then I also just remembered that Waller had like 60, so
yeah.
Unless you went double tight end.
I did not. Did you see that people were like upset with the millionaire winning lineup last week? Like, who cares?
Because of the flex thing?
Yeah, they're like, they played an early guy at flex. Like, yeah, I don't think that's the optimal way to construct a lineup, but like, you don't need to be triggered about it.
No, yeah, and is it optimal? Obviously not. Could it, in theory, burn you? Definitely. 99% of the time, it doesn't matter at all. So yes, of course, for swaps and stuff, you don't want to do that. I did see a little on my Twitter feed, but Twitter's got a lot of issues. What about Cole Kmet?
Yeah. I think he's probably the best like pure value on the tight end part of this, like $2,900. He's running more routes than Jimmy Graham. He's finding the end zone now. It's a pretty soft matchup against Houston. Like, it makes a lot of sense.
Him, Trubisky, Allen Robinson stacks.
Well, if you just want
to run it back with Chad Hansen.
If you just save
come on now.
Save all of the money.
Yeah, then you could play Devontae Adams, Christian McCaffrey, probably one more of those guys. I mean, that's a bad idea, but it's not the worst idea I've ever had on the show.
Well, when you win the $1 million with that lineup this week, you will now take over from the guy from last week. People are like, can you believe this idiot?
Yeah.
Won $1 million.
Yeah, talking about triggered.
He should give it back because that lineup is not optimally constructed. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, I'm sure that guy's real worried.
Yeah, sweating it.
Yeah, I wish I had those problems. Believe me. I don't think.
Did you end up winning a bunch of money at Mayakoba?
No.
How?
I had Wise outright.
Yeah, I had Wise outright too, but I'm thinking from DraftKings, both. I guess Griot had a terrible Sunday, didn't he?
Yeah, I did fine. It was a two-part. Not that we need to tangent to this. One, I was just like, you know what, Ben? It's been a long golf year. Let's focus on SL. I played probably like a third of what I normally play volume-wise, and betting. I was really close to really good things with Wise, and he came, unfortunately, in second.
Yes, as we discussed on the show and we previewed
did.
I ended up getting in on him at 110 to 1. Fortunately, I live in a place where you can play the each ways, so he paid 29.5 to 1 to come inside the top 5. So I was happy with that.
I'm glad to hear that, yeah.
I would have preferred the 110 to 1. I'm not going to lie to you.
I would have, too. I really wish you cashed that ticket.
It's funny, because at the end of that show, too, we were like, we didn't even talk about Vic. That means he's probably going to win. Then he won.
I remember vividly both of those conversations.
Yeah, it's not great. Any other tight ends? Like, if Johnny sits, like, everyone's just going to go to Ferkser.
Yeah, I would rather play Schultz, to be honest. I think he's just in a better position. Ferkser, if you're game log searching, it looks a lot better than it was. He was not involved at all. He wasn't recovering fumbles for touchdowns like the other tight end. He got there in garbage time, when they were throwing late in that game.
If Irv Smith sits again and he did not practice on Wednesday, would you roll the dice on Kyle Rudolph against the Bucs? Like, him and Gronk are really intriguing to me in that game.
Yeah, I mean, Rudolph's obviously at an appealing price point now. I don't know what would happen if Rudolph doesn't play. I guess they go to Tyler Conklin. I'd be lying if I said I knew anything about him. So we would have to dig in to who, if anyone, would be viable if they both sat. Because Kyle Rudolph also did not practice.
Yeah, but he's just old. He probably
he
fell asleep and didn't wake up on Wednesday. It's like, all right, it's okay, Kyle. You've been in the league 87 years. You can get the playbook tomorrow. Yeah,
that's probably what happened. But just in case it didn't, we'll have to. Who's A. DePaula?
I don't know.
Well, A. DePaula. Do you have DraftKings open?
I don't actually, but I can.
This guy's got quite a picture.
DePaula,
DePaola.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Andrew DePaula.
I'm looking right now in what I'm searching on the FTN optimizer, and he's not in the field.
Don't play this guy. I just didn't know he would have a picture.
Anthony D. Podesta. Don't play him. Quarterbacks.
Anybody else?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, we've gone deep enough at tight end.
Yeah, just Logan Thomas, Dalton Schultz, your boy Tyler Eifert, Travis Kelce. Pick one of those guys.
Gesicki.
I don't like Gesicki here. I don't want to attach my team to Tua.
Yeah, I will. It's a fair point. Tua does freak me out. God, if he's going to get those type of targets, it's going to be good. I'm interested to see. I think this is actually a pretty important game for Tua. He's going to have opportunities. I think he needs to play well.
Yeah, I would like to see them win this. If he wins this game and Herbert loses to Atlanta, like, does he actually become a viable Rookie of the Year candidate?
Herbert's just been so fantastic, but
until like the last 3 weeks when he's been bad.
He's slowing down. There's no doubt about it. But you're talking to the wrong person. I'm a huge Justin Herbert guy.
All right. Let's talk about Justin Herbert because we're talking about quarterback stacks. Like, that feels like the game you should attack this week. Chargers, Falcons, no one's playing defense. They're just going to air it out the entire time. Terrible running games. Let's go.
Count me in. Yeah, I mean, coming off a game against New England where everything went wrong for just abysmal performance. Back at home, competitive game, fine total, reasonable price. I don't see any red flags with going to either side of that game, to be honest.
If not, then I think you're just stacking the way that you want to go. It's not like you're going to play a one-off quarterback, like from the top end above, let's say $7,000. Anyone that you see that you would really want to play, because I'd probably be Russell Wilson for me. Not to say I don't want to play Mahomes, but it's a lot of money, and people are going to use them.
Yeah, I think you're I mean, you're not going to go wrong. If I had to pick a quarterback, it would be Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the safest. He would be like where I'd go for cash. Russell Wilson, just because of the stackability with his two big guns. Watson's in a tough matchup. Mahomes is Mahomes. So you've got it. There are no standalones because Kyler now, I don't have the answer, of course, but 3 straight games of only 5 rushing attempts, that has absolutely crippled his upside. And if he's going to continue not to run, it's hard to play him. It's basically impossible, actually.
There's actually 2 standalones that I think you could play, like just because you don't know who to put them with. I think Taysom Hill, you could play by himself and just hope that he rushes in the touchdowns. That's one. And Brady at 69. It's a great matchup, and I have no idea where the ball is going.
Yeah, Brady's been tough all year because obviously the difference between Taysom Hill, he gives you the extra out. You could play him alone and he could run it in twice and you get there. Brady, the thing that's tricky, obviously he could spread it around. He could rack up massive totals. Somebody though, most likely, because those prices on the receivers are reasonable. So someone's got to get there. It's just, I get what you're saying. It's very hard to prioritize the target share with like 8 different guys.
Do you know who the computer likes as the second best value of the week? Sorry, the best value of the week.
At quarterback?
Yep.
Trubisky.
Matt Stafford.
Ooh. Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, he did have a big game. I didn't realize how big of a game he had last week.
Was it 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 400 yards?
Yeah, the volume should be there. They should be trailing. Obviously, he's got the issue with the thumb. It's just a weird stack. He is cheap. The Lion stack is very cheap. He obviously can run it back with Adams on the other side, too.
Jalen Hurts, 5,100?
Yeah, I don't know what to expect with him. Obviously, I come a little from college DFS, where Jalen Hurts was like basically a cheat code. Like he was just unstoppable. I'm interested. He's another one, and you're talking about standalone. I guess there are paths where Jalen Hurts is pretty ineffective, but he runs for, say, 100 yards or something like that. You could do that and just hope that the rushing upside gets you there.
I just looking at the bottom here. Ryan Finley at $4,300. Like he also runs. He's playing Dallas. He's $4,300.
43. Maybe I'll play him just to say I don't think I've ever played a quarterback that low. What would you even do though? Would you play him with
Higgins.
like Higgins or Boyd or something?
Just Higgins and just hope he goes off. Higgins is awesome.
I'm a Higgins guy. I respect that. I mean, again, I think if you do that, I know I've kind of said this a couple of different times. The reason you do that isn't because you think they're going to go nuts. It's because you think that the combination of McCaffrey, Devontae Adams, and Metcalf, all 3 of them go nuts, and this is one of the only ways to do it.
That would be one of the only ways to do it.
That's what I'm saying. And then if that's the case, the raw points that you pick up from those guys will make, even if he has a serviceable game, it can get you there.
You would need like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and both of them to go to Higgins. That's the only way it really works out.
Yeah, I mean, you would obviously have to get something from them, but if you were the only or one of a few people who are capturing massive point totals from 3 top-end guys, that can set a floor for these type of players where they have to do something, but they don't need 30. It's not like you need Finley to get you 30. He just can't get you 6. That's not going to get it done.
If you had to choose a $5,100 quarterback, would it be Hurts, Mullins, Darnold, or Glennon? Because Glennon might be in the best spot here.
So Glennon to me is clearly in the best game. And that obviously is enticing. Boy, I think it would probably be Glennon or as crazy as it sounds, I think the second for me would be Hurts just because we don't know. And when you don't know, there's always a chance maybe it is all Wentz and Hurts gets in there and he's running around and he's unlocking some stuff and his price is going to, soon enough be 6,500. I guess that is possible.
All right. Defenses. Close this out.
Here we go.
I think that if you can find a way, and I never do this, I never pay up for defense, but Saints D against Hurts, like if you wanted to hedge against Hurts actually just being bad, that could be the way to go.
Just so, could it be the way to go? Absolutely. It's just so hard for me to spend money at defense when I can use it most of the time elsewhere.
Sure. Listen, if you're just playing like pure value and you don't care about price point, I think the Saints and even the Seahawks are pretty good values. Like even price points per dollar based on the upside that they could have. Obviously, you would need them to score a touchdown. Well, you need the Saints to score a touchdown to justify paying up for that price. But I never really look at the ownership at defense, and that's sort of my fault. But like, what do the high-end expensive defenses usually come in on? Do people still pay up?
No, I mean, they garner some interest, but not in any, defense is kind of like quarterback too, where ownership tends to be pretty flat unless there's a Kendall Hinton situation. But
even then, like that, I think the Saints were only like the 7th highest scoring defense of that slate. Like it wasn't a great spot with the guy running the ball the entire time.
No, I did not. I went to the Jets. That's what I'm saying. And that slate, I played the Jets. They were $2,100 and they got 9 points. And I was thrilled. Then the Falcons got like 40 and I lost anyway, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, Seahawks at flat 3, but as you work down, I think there's several defenses that you can look to, and some are in the mid 2s, and that's pretty enticing to steal $1,000.
Let's see. Falcons 24, Bengals 23. Those are probably the two. Jets 21.
I've been playing the Jets. I don't know if I can do it here. What about the Broncos at 25?
If McCaffrey's healthy and the passing game options aren't great, like Teddy he doesn't get sacked a bunch. He gets the ball out quickly. He doesn't take a lot of like high chance throws. They're all like short, intermediate passes that are high percentage. Like it's hard to pick him off.
Yeah, that's fair. It's more to me if they are down multiple weapons on the outside. I think that could help. Then you've got like, I don't know, the Niners against Alex Smith. Either side, I guess whoever's under center for the Giants, it's not like they're not immune to doing some stupid stuff for the Cardinals there. That's probably a range I'll look to land if I can.
I mean, if you're going to go to 2,700 for the Cardinals, why not just get up to the Seahawks at 3,000 or even the Bears at 3,000? Like, there's no one left on the offensive line for Houston. And even Pharaoh Brown, who they have been using a bunch to block, he's probably going to be out. Watson has no time. And it's not like Watson's not going to put up points, but he's going to take like 5 sacks.
Oh, Watson, I mean, he is the absolute test case, similar to Jameis, of guys that they can get there in games when they throw like multiple pick sixes. He takes sacks, he makes great plays, but he also makes multiple mistakes in almost every game. So I'm with you. In fact, I actually kind of want to change my point there. I will try to find the extra $300 and get to those two.
If not, actually, now that you kind of talked me into this, maybe I won't end up paying up. The top of this 2,800 is pretty good here. So you have the Bears at 3,000, Seahawks at 3,000. Washington against San Francisco seems pretty good to me. And the Bucks against Kirk Cousins.
This is what I'm saying. Especially, so the other thing that you have to consider is some of these defenses are on teams or going against teams that are going to be somewhat popular stacks. So like you're directly leveraging in some of these spots. So if you get it right, you're also killing teams by a product of that. Like if for some reason Tampa's defense does all the scoring, then it's pretty hard for Brady to have like 50 passing attempts in that game. So keep that in mind. That's one of my favorite ways to leverage is actually with a defense and hope that it kills some stacks in the process.
All right. That will do it. Pat Mayo Experience, Week 14 DraftKings picks, playing the Listeners League. See, I told you we wouldn't go an hour. We're getting late into the year here.
Easy game. Yeah, we breezed right through that. Week 14, no problem.
The fastest way you can lose money, the Pat Mayo Experience. You get to experience it the same way I do, just very quickly.
Yeah, I do. I play in it every week. It's a good time.
Have you ever won it or like come close?
So I was talking to someone the other day about this, and I was saying I've had some really sick wins. One thing I have never done, though, I've never won or even been remotely close to winning the Pat Mayo Experience.
I had one run in golf earlier this year before the COVID break. I think I came 4th and I came 5th a few weeks ago. That in like week 8 during the NFL season.
I'm going to win it, but I know I have not. I've had some like top 50s, but nothing that even was a sweat.
I needed 4 more points from Jordan Howard that week, the week that he started against the Cardinals, and he just couldn't get there.
I'm going to win it this week just for the viewers out there. I'm going to play that Trubisky stack in there with Chad Hansen.
I like it.
Social experiment. I'm going to win the Pat. If I win with that team, that would be a great capper to 2020.
Well, you'll be invited back on the show in 2021 if you win this week.
Okay. Then I got to do it.
What are you guys doing for like the holiday? I guess, how are the bowl games work? Because you do a ton of college football. Like, are you breaking down all the bowl games?
That's the plan. I know it's going to be a little hectic, but yeah, show on Saturday mornings over at Awesemo. Me and Matt Kajeski, DFS and betting. So if there are slates, we will be doing a show for sure.
All right. Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. Hit the like button, rate and review the podcast. Subscribe to ftndaily.com. Use code Mayo for the optimizer. When I was talking about the computer that I was looking at, there we are. That's what I was looking at. It spit out the right answer last week in terms of the $3,000 receiver. N'Keal Harry was the answer, Ben. And all of a sudden he catches a touchdown. Computers know things that I don't. So sometimes I should probably trust the computer instead of hand building my lineup like a goober. Every time that I use the system in the optimizer, I tend to do a lot better. So maybe I'll go back to that this week. I'll get to spit out 3 lineups for me, and then I'll end up tweaking it and losing. But still, it'll be nice to see what I could have won when I should have just used that lineup. It's already discounted. Code Mayo will get you a discount on everything, along with the projections, the cornerback matchups, and all the premium content over at ftndaily.com. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!